All right, I think we're live. Yep, looks good. All right, hey everybody. It's the 18th of July, 2024, and we are kicking off the second half of the year here at Gimbalabs with live open spaces. We get together on Thursdays at 14:30 UTC. That might change. We're going to talk today about how we want to use time for the rest of the year. But you can always get up-to-date links to Gimbal Labs meetings at gimbalabs.com/calendar. But let's jump right into the Miro board today. I just shared this with everybody here at the meeting, and I'm going to share it on the screen. There it is. And if you're just getting situated, we are in a new section of the board called Q3 2024. So we're over here on the far right side. And I'm just going to zoom in right here. Now, in January, and you can see the record of this work off to the left-hand side, we started by crafting a primary driver together. And this is what we came up with. The purpose of Gimbal Labs is to provide open, replicable, safe spaces to learn, to explore, and to empower individuals and organizations anywhere so we can solve meaningful problems. Creating spaces to solve problems. And we defined 5 circles into which we can organize our work. So for the last few months at these open spaces sessions, we've often been talking about our work in terms of these 5 circles. And we're going to work with these today, all right? But just to read them out, we have a builders circle committed to contributing and doing, a community and onboarding circle where the goal is to build trust among collaborators, an education circle dedicated to learning and teaching, an outreach and advocacy circle, and a sustainability and funding circle. These can evolve. These can be split up into smaller parts. These can be combined. The most important thing to know is this just gives us a starting place for organizing our work, and it ought to evolve over time. We're going to come back to that idea in just a minute. What we're going to do today is look at how we organize our work over these next few weeks in a way, hopefully, that sets us up to accomplish some great things over the next few months. And so before jumping into the details right here, at a high level, what I seek to propose today is that for these open spaces meetings, we really focus on proposals. What do I mean by a proposal? I mean anything where we're answering the question, what should we do? This is fundamentally a governance question. And so Alex was talking during the check-in round today before we went live, right? How do we create spaces where people can show up and decide what to do, but also do so in a way that leads to effective governance and people getting the sorts of support they need, okay? And so without going into the details today, it's hard to really flesh out my proposal. So I want to come full circle to this question. How does everybody feel if for the rest of the year we use this collaborative time to really think about proposal forming and proposal consent? Now, those words I'm using come from sociocracy. So we have a few links over here. One of the links, some of you are very familiar with it already because we've been practicing this at Odin and here at Gimbal Labs and in some other spaces. We have the list of Sociocracy 3.0 patterns. These can be adopted piecemeal over time. When we talk about Sociocracy 3.0, we're not talking about adopting a wholesale ideology. What we're talking about is committing to experiments, committing to trying to figure out what works best, taking the parts that work and ignoring the parts that don't. One pattern we have is the concept of a proposal, and the link to a blank proposal template is right here. This will take you to a website, but it's just a copy of what we have in Notion. And that's something that we've talked about. I'm not going to go into Notion right now, but we can come back to that whenever it's useful. And then finally, we have a link to the Gimbalabs prototype of the Andamio contributor platform, which is where we are already organizing how funds are deployed. And we're about to have more funds to deploy because we've been pretty successful in Fund 12 of Project Catalyst. So right here, you can see a list of our current work. Predating Catalyst Fund 12, we've been working on the PPBL 2024 course and the Gimbalabs.com redesign. Both of these projects in green were already approved via the proposal process here at Gimbalabs. Both of them went through a forming process where different people took the initiative to draft the proposal, and then together we refined these proposals until everybody said, yes, that seems good enough for now and safe enough to try. These pink sticky notes are the 3 new Catalyst proposals that we're going to launch work on in August. Okay, so all successful proposals will be onboarded next month. And once we are onboarded and we start receiving the milestone payments, we're going to be able to run with these projects. For us in this space, this one is our number 1 priority. Like we've already been doing with the Fund 11 funds that are already deployed here at the Gimbalabs prototype, we have the opportunity to use all of these proposal funds right here to ask this question, all right, what are we going to do? And we've been gently dipping our toes into 2 really hard things over the last few months. We've been starting to learn how to ask each other to participate and to do things. And we've been starting to learn how to actually put a funding amount on a proposal, which it can feel uncomfortable at first just to ask for money in this space, right? It feels a lot easier almost to do so in the Catalyst space that's really wide open. Hey, I'm going to put my Catalyst proposal out into the ether, and yeah, I'm going to put an amount of Lovelace on it, and I'm going to hope that the voters, approve my proposal. A lot of us here have done that. But it's a different question to look at each other in a meeting like this and say, hey, I think we should do this. And I think that we should get this much funding to do so. We're going to practice that. And that's what we're able to do, first and foremost, with this proposal right here, and then as needed with these other ones. And we'll come back to that in just a minute. So we're going to go through a 3-step process today to start organizing what we might do into these circles right here. And we're going to do it in 3 stages. First, with people taking initiative, okay? This is a word from a book that a few of us have been reading. I found out about it from Nori, called Work with Source. And if you haven't heard about this, I really recommend taking a look at the book. What this book does is it assumes that we are already trying to experiment with maybe flat or non-hierarchical or teal organizations where we organize this way in a circle structure, right? Or I guess a better way to say it would be a structure of nested circles, okay? But this book says, listen, as nice as it is to think about moving towards circular structures and away from hierarchical structures, you still have to acknowledge that someone takes the initiative for whatever eventually gets done. Someone wrote a proposal to the rest of this team to deliver PPBL 2024. That was me. right? I took the initiative to start this, and I leaned on people's support and collected feedback and eventually got consent for this proposal. But I have to name, I started this. And in a similar way, Ken started this project. He took the initiative to start writing a proposal and has a vision for what it's going to be. Different people collaborated on writing these three proposals. But if you participated in any of these, you can probably think about the moment where this proposal was drafted. And somebody was responsible for that. And as such, they have a special role in helping to deliver on this work. That role is called the role of source. And it comes, once again, from people taking initiative, saying, I'm going to do this. And this is what we get to play with right now. The way we're going to take initiative is by saying, hey, I think we should do this. I propose that we should do this thing. We're going to do a round in just a second where people have a chance to fill out a purple sticky note and drag it into whatever circle over here feels appropriate. Then we're going to repeat the process for asking about facilitation of spaces, and then what things people would want to contribute to. But before we can do the orange facilitation and the teal delegation, we need to have a place to organize these thoughts. And that's why we're going to start with a round of thinking about proposals. So I'll give the instructions for that specific task in just a moment, but let me zoom out. I just shared an overview of where we're at, where we started the year, where we ended up over the last few months, and what we're going to do right now in order to organize our current work. But does anybody have any questions or thoughts on anything I just shared right here? Harsha, what do you think?
So you mentioned about the source. So are we assuming that whoever proposed for these proposals are the source, or would there be a source that we would choose from?
I think that's such a great question. And I think it's important to acknowledge who started writing each of these proposals, because they probably have some special ideas. Once you acknowledge that, the role of source can change hands, okay? But a prerequisite towards shifting the source of any initiative is to understand who the original source was and to think about how they're handing off that source role to somebody else. And when the time is right, yeah, we can acknowledge source for these. But I wanted to already go one step further into also thinking about what else we want to do. Mix, Professor, I heard there was an impromptu session yesterday.
Yeah. All right, James. Yes, it was great. We had a discussion in regards to DNS and also Handshake Digitalis, actually. But my question about this session is, do we, I mean, all of these proposals have to have one source, or can they have several sources, or even
okay, this question.
source?
Oh, I love this so much, because this question is addressed in this book right here. And so the answer that the author, Tom Nixon, here suggests is that even if, let's say, Mix, you and I decide to collaborate on a proposal, right? And we might think that we're fully partners in that proposal. There was a moment where one of us said to the other, hey, you want to do this thing? And the person who asked that question is the source, right? They're the person who asked, even if I trust you very much, right? And we want to be equals on this project, we can still contribute equally. But it's helpful just to acknowledge that one of us asked the other, hey, you want to do this thing?
And if the source leave or somehow disconnect from that proposal or from that movement, everything collapse or something like that, or the
That's the
source is kind of
hypothesis.
fluid.
If the source leaves without ever knowing they were the source, and you can probably imagine some examples from your own experience,
Yeah,
often the initiative stalls.
yeah. Okay.
It sounds like my second marriage.
Say you've been there. Who was the source of your second marriage? One
Yeah,
of you say you want to do this to the other, right?
I don't remember.
That's why I felt. All right, so we're proving the hypothesis. This is great. Okay, so we're not going to finish this. The goal is not to make a list right now of all the proposals that we could source, but only to start what's going to be an ongoing process. So let's take a few minutes right now. We're not going to worry about getting everything done. And if you have nothing to add right now, that's okay. You're going to keep getting chances to do this every week. But given that we now have some funds to use to do something, right, to sustain and maintain Gimbalabs, what we're going to do for the next few minutes, I'm going to set a timer here for 3 minutes, which if this feels long, that's okay. It'll give all of us a chance just to sit and think. If it feels short, we can always extend it for an extra minute. But what we're going to do for the next 3 minutes is, if there's something that you think we should do, grab a purple sticky note, write what you think we should do on that sticky note, and then drag it into these circles over here. And you can put it directly inside of one circle exactly. You could put it in between some circles if you think it connects, or kind of halfway into a circle, wherever you think that fits. Okay. We're going to take 3 minutes. I would like to write a proposal to do this. I think we should do that. Write it down, drag it over to the circles. Any questions about what we're about to do? If you don't have access to the Miro board, just drop your idea into the chat or unmute and I'll write it down for you. But have fun with this. Let's see what happens.
but
See
would you, James, would you please post the link again?
Yes, you got it.
Thank you.
Miro link. Now I just have to find Zoom. It looks like a few people are still at it. I'm gonna add 1 more minute so you can keep going. Excellent. All right, let's see what we've got. And thanks for participating. I hope that was at least a good chance to do some thinking. Whoa, let's zoom properly. And just like we do at the start of, or just like we were doing at the start of these open spaces sessions, let's do a quick share out round now. We have these color-coded, here's what we might do, sticky notes on the board. And I'm just going to go from top to bottom. So let's start up here with, oh, sorry, I'm asking a lot of my computer today. I should probably close some applications. But let's zoom in on this guy right here. So somebody added a sticky note to builders contributing and doing. Turn the website into something that's useful for other communities as well as Gimbalabs. I'm guessing that's Ken, but am I right?
Yeah.
Do you want to say a word or two about that one?
Oh, I'm just thinking about how to make things more general, and I don't know. It's just sort of I have a lot of thoughts about it, but they're not fully coalesced. So that's probably part of what the proposal is, to maybe have time to talk about that at some point.
Awesome. That's perfect. And we're going to touch on that in the next part where we talk about facilitation. So that's great. Yeah, that's a perfect example. Let me zoom in on this one. A dedicated person to work on Twitter. Anybody want to say a word about that one?
Yeah, just what I wrote that. I think we need to have social manager or social campaign regards to Gimbalab. We have the fund, and regards to sustainability, if we put some of that fund into outreaching, talking with people, putting the Gimbalabs name more out there, introducing people to what we are doing, through tweets, threads, interaction, getting impression from people. I think it would really help sustainability of Gimbalab, and of course the outreach. It will create a bigger community. I think you guys know already, Twitter is the first source, or at least the gate of crypto. So a lot of projects, they put a lot of efforts to their Twitter. And sure, the next would be the Discord. So the Twitter is the gate, the Discord is the hall or something, or the town hall. And sure, if we have moderator or someone dedicated to the Discord, that would be better. And I put another sticky note regards to paid account, Twitter, paid account for Gimbalabs, getting blue ticks, boosted Discord, or even paid account or Nitro for the Discord. So we can have, for example, dedicated or special or customized stickers, posts, polls, using the full potential of Twitter, Discord, all the social apps we have, and as well as Microboard or Notion, etc. Any tools that Gimbalab is going to use, and Zoom as well.
Excellent. Do you think this sticky is in the right circle?
Well, because it was about contributing and doing, I thought someone needs to do it.
Yep.
That's why I put it there. But the actual point I explained is in the outreach and advocacy circle.
Excellent. Yeah, I can see how these words might be misleading. Steve, what do you think?
I do not disagree with this. That's my main thought. Twitter's a cesspool, and yet it's where a lot of people go. It's what I've noticed. I was surprised, like I took such a long step away from Cardano over the winter, for probably 8 months, where I wasn't really engaged, even though I was keeping an eye on shit. And I was surprised this last funding round with Catalyst, how many people asked me to, push their proposals on Twitter. And I think that there's an opportunity on Twitter for Gimbalabs. I don't advocate for it, right? Because, it's fundamentally just a knee-jerk reactionary media platform. And yet there are great conversations that happen. There are great conversations that happen, in the Twitter feed, but also in Twitter Spaces. I mean, Twitter Spaces, are obviously useful. There are many people using Twitter as a platform to discuss ideas and to promote themselves. And Gimbalabs has always been kind of a nebulous concept for me. It's not easy for me to define it for others. I have my own thoughts about what it has been. I mean, I've always felt like it was a think tank, but like that's that's such a loaded term, right? That could fucking mean anything, but I think that's what it's done. I think we've given good feedback to people who didn't enjoy the feedback that we gave them. And I think we've given good feedback to people who really enjoyed what we gave them. That's kind of been the benefit of the Tuesday afternoon playgrounds. And so, to get back to my thought about Twitter, and I find it really interesting, Mix, that you suggested it, because I hardly see you on Twitter. And you're somebody that I would, and what's funny to me is because I don't see you on Twitter, and yet you're somebody that I've always thought it would just be great to have you in a Twitter space about any given topic.
So we don't, I'm going to pause you right there just because we don't have time to go this in depth on every one of these, but you're
Sure.
already taking the most important next step, right? Mix took the initiative to drop this sticky note on the board, and it started a conversation. That's exactly what's supposed to happen. One of the questions is now, where does that conversation happen? And the answer I'd like to propose is now that conversation turns into anybody who's interested crafting a proposal for what we should actually do, right? Because we can sit together and talk about the relative possibilities of Twitter engagement. But what we need to do in order to use our time effectively is everybody who has an opinion crafts a proposal and brings that well-formed to the rest of the group so work can start. And that's really the pattern we want to follow here. So I'm sure there's going to be other things that we could also jump in and talk about, but let's keep this a sharing round first, and then we'll talk about where each of these can go next, depending on who's interested. Alex, what do you think?
Just a quick and short reply to Steve. In my notes I have saying, Gimbalabs is like Tao. Trying to understand takes you away from the truth.
That's DAO with a T though, not with a D, right?
Exactly. Tao in Eastern sense, like what they teach. If you try to understand the way, you are getting misled.
Over here in sustainability and funding, which I think is related, Alex, to what you're saying, revisiting the idea of how the community funds things. Anybody want to say a word about that? Did any of us
Oh,
hear?
that was me. Like I was just thinking about how you've got the gimbal token things or something. I was just wondering, like, you have ideas about how that works or how that should work, and I'm not sure if there's like I've been thinking about um ways of tokenizing things or how do you you like what kind of funding mechanisms can you use that will facilitate more grassroots innovation type stuff? And so I don't know, like it's just something that I'm interested in discussing.
Excellent. And yeah, I'll add a purple sticky there. There are next steps that could be taken with the gimbal token. And if that's an initiative we want to take, that's a project that we can pick up anytime. All right, good. Moving, I see in the middle of the board. Identify source for each proposal, responsibilities for delivery, compensation, and final presentations, reflections.
That was me. It's just like a continuation of something that I proposed, like in the middle, where someone has to manage a proposal, or someone or a group of people can manage a proposal and decide on some compensation, which we can reflect on at a later time and see if it's enough or too much, or just right, like just something so that we can deliver on the proposals that we have, because these are all time bound things.
Excellent. Well said. And yeah, that fits in the general Gimbalabs circle. That's something we're all going to be collaborating on. And so for everybody who hasn't been knee deep in S3, right, we have this Gimbalabs circle, which is the whole organization. We have sub circles of it, and all of them can work in this, in what's that word, recursive way. And we could drill down, right? Any given circle, you could have smaller subcircles inside of it. So Harsh is using the super circle right here, I think, in an effective way. Let's zoom over to education. Aiken live coding and Marlowe live coding sessions. Yes.
Yeah, I put that there as well. I think I meant Marlowe live coding, but who knows, maybe Marlowe
Marlowe
loud
live coding.
coding
Do you
sounds
want to leave
better.
it like this, or are we good?
But yeah, I think especially in regards to again, I mean, I think if I'm right, we got more votes, more yes vote for Aiken PBL. So there are more attention to Aiken live coding, and I think we need to have them throughout our week. And I'm not sure Aiken PBL and Marlowe PBL does support live coding session or not, but maybe we can dedicate some funds to the host, to the, I don't know, the tools, the resources for this live coding.
Excellent. Yeah, that's going to be really good to look at how we allocate people and hours to that. But that's going to be really exciting. And probably connects to some of kind of the Twitter communications. This guy, social shift for Cardano to become more inclusive in the outreach and advocacy circle.
That's me. Well, just I'm gonna be working on this in the future, as well as sticky on the right. So I'm gonna continue into that one as well. So this is sort of my seems to be will be my core responsibilities at Intersect for the next 3 months. And if anyone interested to like work on this with me, well, just so that people know that I'm working on it. And Cardano contribution ladder is a sort of thing which is still in the works. I don't know how it's gonna be. Nobody knows yet. We're still in the process of fleshing it out. The core of the idea is here is a new guy. He has maybe this sort of level of experience. And what he would like to do is to be able to live a good life. And part of living a good life is building Cardano open source projects. So how do we guide him from just being, well, let's say Kevin, if you'd like to build Marlow, yeah. So what would be steps for Kevin from just learning about Cardano first time? Oh, but you're not new. You're already a couple of years in the ecosystem. So yeah, well, so from someone who just learned about Cardano ecosystem to becoming a core repository maintainer. And there's like some branching there. And it's my firm belief that Gimbalabs will play an important role in that for sure.
Excellent. Thanks. Those are really thoughtful and sound like really good conversations to start. So now we're going to keep this structured conversation going for today so that we can get to the point where we are all jumping in to writing, refining, and getting consent for the proposals that we want to see happen. And the next step.
Isn't there one more sticky?
Oh, this was the one Mix talked about.
But on the right, in advocacy and outreach, the third sticky.
Yeah, Mix said we should maybe have paid social media.
Okay. Oh, sorry, my bad.
All right, next question is the orange question, facilitation. I can help provide spaces to use words from our primary driver, right? That's what we're here to do, provide open, replicable, safe spaces. And make sure things get done, right? Which once we have commitments is part of our job. And so the sentence starter for these orange sticky notes is, I would like to facilitate this by doing that. And here's an example, right? I can take this orange sticky note, and actually I'm going to drag it first. I know that I'm pretty excited to think about this one that Mix took the initiative to add. So I might drag an orange sticky note over here, and I might write my name on it and say, I would like to, man, sorry, my computer is run. Yeah, I got too much going on. Sorry, everybody. I would like to facilitate live coding sessions. Give me 1 second. All right, so that's just as an example. Hopefully I just shut down the right programs. I would like to facilitate live coding sessions. So this is my way of saying in orange, all right, if there's initiative being taken in purple, I'd like to be one of the people who makes sure this thing gets done. And what we're going to start to see is maps of purple to orange stickies, which gives us a way to look at what we might want to do and who can make sure that that work gets facilitated. I'm going to set the clock for 3 minutes again. And you don't have to write your note on a sticky, but if you want to put it out there, you can. And drag those to wherever they go. And you can already see that Alex is using the Miro lines to connect them. So if you can think of connections between one or multiple stickies, absolutely use those connection lines. Any questions about what's happening next? All right, see you in 3 minutes. And I see Harsh's hand. What do you think?
I was just wondering, when you say facilitate, is it pointing to something specific, like an actual space where someone hosts a room or something, or is it more like a general idea of a facilitator?
I love it. Yeah. And that's why I wasn't thinking specifically necessarily, right? Creating spaces is what makes this happen, right? And sometimes that can be, like you're saying, a specific meeting at a specific time and place, but it can also be pinging the right people on Discord at the right time, right? Or creating a project plan that makes the steps from point A to point B feel clearer to people. I think there's a lot of different ways to facilitate things getting done. Okay. Now, we're not going to jump into a share out round at this step. We're actually going to move directly on to the next conversation. And what you can already see happening is we're starting to create a priority map that allows us to see that some circles have more purple or orange than others, right? If there's a lot of purple in a circle, that means a lot of people are willing to play the role of source or to take the initiative in those circles. And if there's a lot of orange already, there's a lot of people who are willing to support that. And this is just data, right? This is not meant to be like a qualitative judgment. I notice there's no stickies yet in this circle right here. But this doesn't mean that this is not a priority, okay? This is just giving us a chance to figure out where we're at and how we're going to be able to spend the time we've got. And so now we come to the last question. Facilitation is a leadership role, right? You're making sure that things get done. But sometimes it feels really good to not be in charge and just to have responsibilities delegated to you. And that's what these teal stickies are for. If you'd like to contribute, but not really decide what to do, and you'd rather just be told what to do on one or more projects or in one or more circles. This is that sticky note. And in a really healthy teal or evolutionary organization, you might often find yourself playing the source role on one project, a facilitator role somewhere else, and then a delegated role somewhere else. That's healthy. Okay, so I really don't want this to feel like a hierarchy, but this is a chance to say, hey, yeah, if somebody's making a plan and somebody's facilitating, I would love to contribute to that. Okay, so we're going to take 3 minutes for this as well. Grab the teal sticky notes and same deal, drag them to where they belong on this board, use lines to connect them if you want, and optionally include your name. Any questions about what we're doing next? All right, 3 more. How's this look? We're starting to have a high-level map of where our priorities are, and that's really exciting. So this time, instead of taking it one sticky at a time, we're going to do a round where everybody can just share out what they notice. And when it's your turn to share, I'll just zoom in wherever you tell me to over here. So just say this circle or that sticky note. But let's go around. I'm going to go from the bottom to the top of my screen this time and just share what you notice or what you wonder about the picture of Gimbalabs that's emerging right here. Mix, what do you notice? What do you wonder?
Well, I wonder why there is no SDK node or anything on community and onboarding trust building first. Like, no one thought anything about that, but or like maybe some of this sticker has some relationship with that community and onboarding, like the one just I mentioned, live coding. Live coding can be onboarding as well, right? People can come and onboard because of what they see. And same thing for the social apps like Twitter. That can be a gateway for onboarding, and of course, it's community as well. So uh, I wonder these sticky notes are really dedicated to one circle, or so some of them are dedicated to several circles, in fact. In regards to tokenomic, I wanted to put something that maybe, I don't know how to put that, but maybe we look to the places that kind of distribute tokens, such as drip drops, tap tools, or other projects. And maybe that would be helpful again to onboarding a community. Well, the fact that I got introduced to Gimbalabs through drip drops, through that token, maybe some other people uh, can come to Gimbalabs as well.
Excellent. And I love what you said about not knowing exactly what to say about that at this point, and that's totally fine. Everybody can trust. We're going to do this process again next week and just keep adding and refining this map. Okay, so the goal today is just to get these patterns in everybody's minds. And hopefully, when you walk away from today's meeting, if you're playing around with how to describe something, maybe that you'll have a breakthrough and can share something next week.
Yeah, also just last point. I feel facilitating is kind of contributing, but I was confused as well. Like, is it different than contributing? Like, contribution is like very inclusive, facilitation is more exclusive. And so like I have that sticky note regards to that Twitter. I would love to facilitate Twitter Spaces, or I should say I would love to contribute to Twitter Spaces. So I don't know which one.
Let's refine these definitions over the next few weeks, but given that we only have 18 minutes right now, I'm going to put that in the parking lot. So we do need a clearer definition so we can tell the difference between these things. But let's come back to that next week, because I do want to make sure everybody gets a chance to share right here. I see Harsha next. Harsha, what do you notice and what do you wonder?
I actually couldn't figure out like the exact patterns. It so yeah, I have very little to contribute on what I think of it as a whole. Um, I'm just like open to listening to other ideas and see if something clicks.
Healthy stance. I appreciate that. Thank you. Ken, what do you notice and what do you wonder?
Um, yeah, I'm not sure. I'd probably have to spend a little bit more time thinking about it.
Perfect. Yep, absolutely. And if anybody else feels the same way, that's a great place to leave this meeting today. So don't worry about having fully formed thoughts right now. Alex, what are you noticing and wondering?
Yeah, well, it's mind blowing, man. Governance is hard. Uh, as a chatty guy, I can just say, yeah, well, some of the things fit well into what I'm doing. So yeah, that'd be great to. My goal would be, to scale impact of Gimbalabs using the resources that intersect, that if I have any, right? So that'd be awesome. So Twitter Spaces, there's some discussion, and then community onboarding and organizations, which we said like distribute tokens. I was just talking to someone from Clarity DAO, and they have a like interesting promotion program, and maybe we could look into adding a sticky note about getting a Gimbalabs page, about writing a proposal about getting a Gimbalabs page at Clarity DAO. And this way, maybe people at Clarity DAO would be aware of Gimbalabs more, and maybe it would be a sort of a funnel in community onboarding circle. Or maybe it would be advocacy outreach. I don't know which one counts better towards bringing students in for taking lessons and learning Cardano and doing Cardano stuff.
Yeah, that's an interesting possibility. Cool. Yeah, I hear a lot of possible proposals that could come together there. Hinson, the birthday boy dropped by. Hey man, happy birthday.
Hey, thank you. I was just listening. Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Probably I will join a little bit back more open session, just crazy hustling for the Fund 12, and also yeah, the project thing and a lot of things happening. But right now, relatively, I get a chance to step back a little bit to think about big picture and other things. So probably I will hang out more to get more idea from here as well. For me, actually, I've been checking with James yesterday to talk about the sustainability. My point of view is like after around half years of kind of engagement, I feel like I'm feeling better in Gimbalabs to be the catalyst of other people's, or to be the assistant to help out other people to do whatever they want. So here we have got a very strong proponent who is James. He's leading a lot of education things on Gimbalabs. So what I just try to do in the previous few months is try to help flesh out the ICANN PBL proposal, flesh out the Marlowe PBL proposal, try to liaise and arrange some KOL interviews, community outreach for getting votes. So far, I'm not sure what is the reason behind, but probably 80% is because of the original replication from Gimbalabs. But going forward, I think from a lot of CDAN labs, Delta DeFi proposal, Mesh.js proposal, and Gimbalabs proposal, actually we got all passed in Fund 12. I feel like I start to understand what the community cares about, and I could be the translator here. So going forward, I probably spend some time to help plan out a bit on Fund 13. But for this round, I do want to have a little bit more drives coming from the community. Like, for example, we want to flesh out the governance model for Gimbalabs. Maybe we could have a proposal just for that. Or if we want to build another PBL, we could have another proposal for that. And if we want to practice out some of like local community, like what CDAN Lab is trying to do in Hong Kong, we could also have a proposal for that. So what I want to do is to try to make sure there's at least some resources in our ecosystem, so that people can do more than just wandering or rendering around, but really have some more serious efforts and engagement putting into here. So this is more of my point of view. I probably still hang out around and see what's happening with here, but a lot of cool things happening.
Thanks for dropping by late at night. Appreciate you. Steve, what are you noticing and wondering?
I apologize for not writing stickies. I would like write paragraphs, and I don't want to bore anybody with all of my thoughts. I'm definitely down to do shit with Twitter. I have specific thoughts about that, specific ways to make that happen. I really appreciate Hinson, and congratulations, Hinson, on Catalyst and your birthday. And I'm really curious how old you are, but you don't have to tell me in public.
26.
26,
Today.
okay. Okay. I'm just glad you're not 50, because you would make me jealous. So, something that I'm curious about because of stuff that Hinson just said, and what, my general awareness of how things go is like, how is it that Gimbalabs is driving Andamio course creation? I find that really interesting, because it's Hinson was just talking about that as if Gimbalabs does that, but it doesn't feel to me that that's the way it actually happens. And so like this, I don't mind. I'm not saying this in a critical way. It's just really fuzzy to me, this relationship between Andamio and Gimbalabs. Like most of the people that are founders of Andamio aren't here. I don't think, and maybe they're taking a break or whatever, but like it's a real thing, Andamio is a real thing. It's got a real structure, and Andamio is well on its way to becoming an income producing entity. And so this relationship between Gimbalabs and Andamio is really interesting to me, and I'd like to be around when that's talked about at some point. Because all of these ideas here on these sticky notes are all kind of, it's just fuzzy shit, and and I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just pointing it out, and in terms, well, I'm saying what's on my mind. That's on my mind. So, there you go.
No, that's a great noticing and wondering. And yeah, I'll come back to that one to close out today. But first, want to kick it to Kevin. Thanks for joining us for this. This is kind of a unique meeting, and we're doing, it's kind of a nice place to start, and it'll get faster paced than this. But yeah, how you doing so far?
Yes, this is all new to me. I don't know the full details of what you know about Gimbalabs, so I'm very limited in my understanding. So I keep a bit on the background, but I try to invest some collaboration here, but I don't know what the practical side of this will be. So I put one blue sticky note. I removed the red one. So I'm yeah. So I try to be maybe some help. I don't know how that in the practice will work out. It's just I've been working as a hobbyist on a notebook, and I wonder how does that work if I share that insight to anyone. Yeah, and some people make some kind of a catalyst event, and they get funded, and then they work on the same thing that I'm doing, of course, maybe better. And then what do I do? Do I share my knowledge? And then some other company like I don't know, Dandelon, or what's that name there? Your partner. And maybe they earn on delivering courses based on maybe what I share or maybe what you share. So I don't know how the honesty here, because what I don't want to do as well is like you have some funding coming in, and I would like to contribute, but I don't want to profit either of this. So I want to feel some kind of a level agreement in sharing. And on the other hand, I'm all for open source. So sharing knowledge is maybe a good thing. You plant your seeds and maybe friendships grow, and maybe Cardano becomes more successful, as good for everyone. So yeah, there is some kind of a you understand me. So that's all what's on my mind at the moment, and I'm listening and learning. Thank you.
You bet. And thanks for being here. Yeah, the questions that you're asking are things that I think a lot of us have been engaging with both individually and collectively for a while. And some of us here have said it to each other several times over the years, right? But we're always earning each other's trust, and we know that it can be broken. So we know that that's a process. But yeah, there's some really good stuff to dig into. And we absolutely do have to move on to the practical details of how this stuff actually gets done. And so that's how I want to close out today, by starting to construct a mental model for what this time is and what's going to happen beyond this meeting, right? What we want is people making contributions and making sure things get done. And one way to think about the distinction between facilitation and delegation is, if you were to imagine the model of a development team, the project or product manager might be in a facilitation role, organizing, making sure things get done. And then the people who are taking sprint tasks, right, and delivering on development tasks, those are contributors. They're being delegated to these things. Now, often there's overlap, right? Somebody might be a facilitator managing a project, and they might also take some of that delegation on. And so if we take all of these colors together now, projects, what are we doing already? Well, in the education circle, we're working on PPBL 2024, and that's overdue for delivery, but it's going to be delivered over the next few weeks. Gimbalabs.com is being redesigned, and there's already one sticky that might take this a step further, but we know that that work fits into the builder's circle. Sustaining and maintaining Gimbalabs is really a Gimbalabs circle initiative. And we're going to decide together how to deploy these funds over the next few months. Then Aiken and Marlowe PBL, those are also mostly in the education circle, because the primary deliverable is course material, but I'll put those on the edge of the circle because they might extend to other circles as well. Will these open up opportunities for outreach or for onboarding? Maybe. And that's a question that we're going to be asking over the next few months. So pink, we've got funded catalyst work. Green, we've got work that's already consented to inside of Gimbalabs. Purple, we've got work we might do where people are taking initiative and crafting proposals. Orange, we have people jumping in and saying, yeah, that's important enough to me that I want to make sure that thing gets done. And finally, in teal, we have the ability to represent that there's something that, if the work is happening, you'd like to contribute to it. We're going to talk more about pathways to contribution next week. And that's something we're going to continue to do beyond. But you've already, if you've been here, you've already seen the model for this, and we will revisit the treasury next week. But take a look at this model right here. What can happen in these sessions? Well, purple, remember, is people taking initiative, suggesting an idea, right? So this is initiative or proposal. Then we have people jumping in and saying, yeah, hey, I want to make sure that thing gets done. That's orange, right? And so anytime somebody shows up for one of these Thursday meetings and says, hey, I think we should do X, which happens all the time at Gimbalabs, right? All of us have ideas for saying, I think we should, and they fill in the blank. People who want to support that will have a chance to help refine a proposal, right? That's one kind of facilitation. If you give a proposal writer feedback, you are supporting and making sure that they get it to the point where what can happen? It can become an approved proposal in green. And we have funds for a whole bunch of new approved proposals. We already have leftover funding coming in from Fund 11. We've already been using it for a few things, but we have a lot to go through there. And now we have the sustain and maintain proposal coming in, and we get to choose how to govern that. Once a proposal is approved, two things can happen. People can contribute to it. Yep. Now that the work is real, now that it's scoped out, people can step in and say, yeah, I can take care of this task or that one. And if that goes well, now the cycle can continue. And so one of the things Hinson and I were talking about yesterday, and I'd like to look at together over the next few weeks, is how can maybe this sustain and maintain funding help us research and develop the big ideas that might be successful in Fund 13 or beyond. Okay. Now, this is a place for us to start organizing our work. And in order to organize it, that's where we can really lean into the sociocracy patterns. Proposal forming, proposal consent, different sorts of facilitation moves. And if you're familiar with S3, you know the list goes on. But I think this gives us a place to start. And this is the pipeline that I'll be working to get started on these Thursday meetings, okay? Now, one thing that as a facilitator for now of this meeting, I'm really going to push hard on is I expect proposals to be written. We're going to leave behind at Gimbalabs the days of people showing up and saying, I think we should do X, but not taking the next step. And when we get to these meetings, we're going to have time at the beginning to add more purple sticky notes to this board. But in order to discuss those proposals any further, a prerequisite step will be to write a proposal. And that's what we're going to focus on next week, because where we are headed is this Gimbalabs circle. We're all going to hold each other accountable to saying, hey, where's the proposal? Give us something in writing that we can give feedback to if you want to spend each other's time and or money to get things done. And we're going to create trusted ways for each other to say, hey, if you don't have a proposal yet, people can step up and help you write it. But without the written proposal, the only amount of time we're going to give to new ideas is this little bit right here. People can add purple sticky notes to the board, but if they want to go any further than that, they have to take the initiative, all right? We have too much to do, and we're beyond the days of just being able to take up airtime with possibilities. And now it's time to jump into really getting things done. So that's what we're going to do over the next few weeks. This open space is going to become a time specifically for proposal forming and proposal consent processes, all right? Along the way, we're going to learn more about those things together, and we're going to continue to stay at this high level at the start of each meeting until we're really fully launched into the process of refining proposals together, okay? But I'm really excited for this phase. There's real fabulous work to do. We're going to be breaking down these pink ones and inviting people sometimes into the work. I say sometimes because some of this work is just going to happen. Everybody here knows how slow writing PPBL 2024 has been because we've really opened the doors for it. And that's a wonderful ideal, but we've seen how slow it is. So some work is going to be a little bit more closed off moving forward. Why? Because things have to get done. And so just to finish up, I just wanted to, Steve, give you one way to think about Andamio and Gimbalabs. One reason it's blurry is because I happen to be a founder of both, okay? Gimbalabs was founded nearly 4 years ago during Catalyst Fund 2. I've been working on the education parts of that ever since. About 1.5 years ago, we started to convene a team to build a real product based on what we learned. And that product is called Andamio. And Steve, like you said, right, that's set up to be a for-profit business, and we're going through all of the steps of making that so. We don't work with the door open because Gimbalabs is still the place where that happens. But the division of work between the two organizations is that Andamio is building the tools and Gimbalabs is building course material. I have a privileged seat in this because I'm one of the lead authors behind PPBL 2024. I do that on behalf of Gimbalabs, but it gives me a chance to use Andamio as both an early user and a developer of the platform, and everything I do here informs our further development of the platform, okay? So these courses are going to be delivered in Andamio, but written with the funding of these Gimbalabs Catalyst proposals. And as such, Gimbalabs is actually a client of Andamio. Gimbalabs will pay a fee to Andamio in order to deliver each of these courses on the platform, and the rest of these funds will go to course creators. So I hope that helps. I know we're 5 minutes over time, but before we break, any questions about what's happening next, or what I just shared about that distinction? Yeah, Steve, what do you think?
If Gimbalabs is paying a fee, then when future students are taking those courses that you've paid a fee to have on Andamio, then Gimbalabs will get some of that money, right? Like the student, what students pay.
That would be assuming that students are paying to take the courses, but at this moment, there's no plan for students to pay for PPBL, Aiken PBL, or Marlowe PBL.
Okay.
Any other questions before we break? All right, y'all, thanks for kicking off the second half of the year. Next week, we're going to start right here, okay? And we're going to pick up this circle exactly where we left it. If you want to add stickies to this note over the next few days, of course you can. We'll start here, and then we'll jump into this process right here and the role of proposal writing in making this process work. Because once again, moving forward, if work is going to happen, step one is to write and achieve consent for a proposal. That's what's coming. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, y'all, for hanging out a little bit over time today, and be in touch. Thanks, y'all.
Cheers. Bye.
Have a good night.
All right.